This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
All right. Welcome back. If you're a veteran and you're struggling or feel like you are leading a path towards the darkness, stop and think about those who are around you. Think about how they truly value you, how they will miss you. You are not alone. You need to talk to someone. Someone will listen to you. If you feel like you'll be a burden to someone, or you don't feel like you should put that weight on your inner circle, call the hotline at 988 and take option 1. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at _MisFitNation. It's _MisFitNation. This will keep you up to date with our latest news, episodes, and of course, our great guests. Speaking of which, our next guest is one of the youngest guests we've had on the Misfit Nation. She lives in California with her parents, her sister, and her furry friends. Besides riding, she enjoys skateboarding, Beyblading, free running, falconry, and of course, reading. She has written 20 books and published 12, and that was by the time she was 15. So without further ado, let's welcome author and anti-bullying advocate Shanti Hershenson to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Shanti.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on and having a young talent like yourself on here. That's an awesome feat to have that many books written. And I think I read in your bio, you wrote most of them, a lot of them during the COVID pandemic. So yeah, you stayed busy.
Yeah.
Who was your inspiration to start writing? I mean, you're very young, so hopefully it's mom, dad, or maybe a teacher or something.
I have to say that's a really difficult question for me. I don't know why. I have to say, so about that time, like, I don't really think my inspiration, at least to start writing books, was anything other than, like, being isolated and being at home, which you'll find in a lot of my books, particularly the one that I wrote right when the pandemic began, has a lot of, like, themes of isolation. So I think that was in some way kind of inspiring. At the same time, the pandemic was really a really hard time for me just because I was at home, I was bored, and I didn't want to get sick. Other than that, like, prior to that, it's always been one of my dreams to, like, write a book. When I was younger, I remember going in bookstores and seeing, like, pictures of authors and being like, oh my gosh, these people are so cool. Or I would see, like, just all the books on the shelves and kind of picture, like, my name there. Of course, I thought that was something I was going to do when I was an adult, not 15.
Definitely, you fast forwarded a lot quicker than most people do. A lot of people procrastinate a lot, and the pandemic made that procrastination worse for a lot of people. You hit the acceleration button, and you went crazy, went straight forward, and just rode away. You probably broke a keyboard or two on the way. So do you usually just write in your room, or you write facing you have something that motivates you when you write?
I'd say when it comes to writing, actual motivation comes from different things. I find the best writing sessions I have are when I'm really, really excited about a scene. Like I know it's going to happen, or something happens that just surprises me, and I can just get all these words out because it's almost like entertaining me to like write. I definitely think like in terms of where I write, my room is usually where I write. However, occasionally I'll need to like have a change of scenery. Sometimes I go and I write in like restaurants or like coffee shops, and other times there's a park like right down the street from my house, so I go right there. But really, like my room is like my headquarters.
The room headquarters and then the park. That's good. All good places. And one question I had, and I said it in the intro. What is Beyblading?
Oh my gosh. I've had that bio for so long. That's like a game of battling spinning tops. It's originated in Japan. It's like a kid's toy line. Really obsessed with it from like 4th to 6th grade. So I was in probably 6th grade when I wrote that bio. And it's like I don't really that's not really one of my hobbies anymore, but oh my gosh. It's too iconic to leave out of the bio.
You definitely got to keep it there now. Now it's on the air everywhere probably. So you got to. It's there forever. It's embedded in the interweb. So you got it for the rest of your life now. The other ones I understood easily. That one did not.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to a fellow young writer, a teenager, or even those who might be younger wanting to become writers? What advice would you give them to get that foot on the accelerator and type away or get their story out?
Oh, I have so many pieces of advice. My first thing, and a lot of people, some people like disagree with this, but like write every single day. That's the really one of the only ways to actually improve your writing. Because if you spend every day writing, you're going to learn things and you're just going to improve. And it's really good, I think, if you pick a certain amount to write every day. So like one day you're not writing 100 words, the next day you're writing 2,000. For me, I do 1,000 words per day, and it's what's worked. I've been doing that since about 6th grade, and I'm a freshman now. But some days it's like I'll do 2,000, or maybe if it's over the summer, I'll pick a higher goal. Like usually my goal over the summer per book is like 4,000 a day, but that is a lot. That can be like hours of writing. So, and then my other thing is like, especially for young people, don't let your age get in the way. And I know it kind of sounds like a little like cliche, but seriously, a lot of people I think are prevented from writing because they're like, well, I don't really think, it's something I have to do when I'm young. Like I can do it when I'm older. And of course you can do it when you're older because you're never really too old to write a book and you're never really too young to write a book. But I'd say if you're a teenager and you have that dream to write a book, like do it. There's no downside to doing it, or at least trying. And if you can kind of get rid of the block when it comes to your age, then I think you can write a lot better. I mean, like, because sometimes I'd be like, should I be writing this? I'm a kid. Usually it's with like violence or more like kind of emotional scenes. But then it makes the book so much stronger if you kind of just get rid of the idea that you're a kid and have to write like certain things.
Right. I mean, you wrote many different books, different genres too. So you're not just staying in one niche there. You're going outside that niche and into. You have a series, I think, too, on there as well. So
Yeah.
you really expanded upon yourself with just in a short period of time. I mean, the bar is high for you. You set your own bar high for you now. Were the numbers correct that I said in the beginning? 20 written, 12 published.
Yeah, I'm working on number 21.
Just one at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to publish the other 8?
Of course, yeah. Those are all in my backlog. I'm currently preparing number 13, which is called The Bane of Angel Fall Academy. It's a little different from anything else I've done, so I'm a little scared. So I just like emailed the cover designer, and I'm starting to set up like art grading and stuff. And I'm currently writing it's weird because I'm currently writing a book and I'm currently editing a book always. So yeah.
So you stay busy all the time.
Yeah.
So in school, when you take English classes or whatever in school, do you just laugh and say, "Yeah, I can do this. This is easy. My book's better than this one." Do you compare
Sometimes
some of the books? So you're in there comparing, and do you ever tell the teacher, "No, I don't like this one. You should read this book for the class"?
I've never suggested it, but I've thought that before.
I'm sure it's hard to hold back. I know when my daughter wrote her book. She wrote her book coming out of high school, and then she went to college to become a creative writer. And the dean of students went in there and said, "I know many of you think you could become writers." And she just raised her hand and said, "I already have." And, "Oh, there's one of you in here." And then that's how her 4 years of college went.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So now she's a personal trainer. So she went to a totally different way. But she had a dream in high school. She did it. She followed it. Now she has a new dream. And I support her 100% of the way. And I'm sure your parents support you, and they're your biggest cheerleaders now.
Yeah.
They're behind you, and you have furry friends too. I guess dogs, hopefully.
I have cats.
Oh, come on. we're almost becoming friends there. How do you on the subject of school? I mean, you write down your time, and then you have your schoolwork. I'm sure as an eighth grader, you have a lot of work to do. Not a high school. I'm sorry, freshman high school now. Yeah, you have a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
have.
to do and write to and keep your balance there. How do you do it?
I got really lucky last semester because like two of the classes I had didn't give homework, and then the teachers I had didn't give very much homework, so it was just fairly easy. Otherwise, it's like I also was writing during homeroom and then after school, and I'll still be able to do that next semester. So really, it's like I find time during the school day to actually just write, and then I write a little at home, and then I do my schoolwork. Um, it can be a little difficult sometimes, but I've always like been able to do it.
That's good. I mean, there's a lot of adults that cannot balance two different lives at one time. You're doing it well at your age, and you should probably write a book on balancing your time properly for others.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing something like that? A
I've thought
how-to?
about yeah, I've thought about doing like a how-to book. I was thinking like maybe like book marketing because I can like sort of speak on that, particularly with TikTok. And I also thought about actually like a how to write quicker book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, seen on your bio that you only claim to have 30,000 followers on TikTok. I looked there today, you had 50,000. So
Oh, I
that
have to update my bio.
your bio needs a little scrubbing up there, but it's
Yeah.
good that I had time to research today and find these things. So I mean, your TikTok's expanded, your Instagram's very neat and going well. And I also read in there you're the anti-bullying advocate too. That's
Yeah.
huge, especially this day and age of the internet. The internet that makes bullying so much easier for the bully, harder for the bullied, because you can't turn it off. You can't just leave school and say, oh, it's over. They're not going to bother me. It's always there. How did you get into anti-bullying, and what's your biggest message to your peers?
So I got into like anti-bullying in around the 6th grade, and I was bullied really badly, and my school didn't do anything. And then like things kind of kept happening, and like this kid kind of like she kind of backed off at the same time she didn't. It was this whole really horrible thing. And all they told me was, it's just middle school. It happens all the time. The things that happened really weren't just middle school. So there's that. But that kind of sparked something inside me because I'm like, well, if that's just middle school, then that needs to change because like that shouldn't be our reality. So I ended up beginning by writing poems about bullying and sharing them at open mic nights. And then that progressed to writing 2 books about bullying. One of them is a novel told in poetry about what happened to me, and the other is like a companion novel. Not a novel, a poetry book. Um, and like from there, I just started speaking about it and spreading the word that like, hey, schools have really serious bullying problems, and they're like just accepting it, and that's not okay.
So have you talked to school leaders about this issue, or have they not really listened to you at this point?
So it took about 2 years of since like the really really big incident of advocating for an anti-bullying program for them to actually get something. And of course, once they got an anti-bullying program, I was not able to be on the committee for some reason. I'm not sure why. And I eventually, because that was my middle school, I left and switched schools. So I don't really have any connection to that school anymore, but I'm hoping they're doing okay. It's like my current school doesn't really have nearly as big of a problem. So it's like for now, like they're okay. I mean, it would be kind of cool to like start like an anti-bullying club or something, but
Yeah, sometimes like you're able to feel the waters out now in your new school and see if there is a major issue, if there is an issue at all, and if there is, maybe you can maybe start a club or just start a club that includes everybody instead of having the outsiders looking in or people stacking up against other kids. And that's probably the best way to start it without actually branding it as anti-bullying. It's just welcoming club or something. That'll probably open the eyes a little better.
yeah.
I'm not sure how it works in California, but here, I'm sure those clubs will work here in Tennessee as well. And my wife's a middle school teacher, so she sees a lot of the stuff that you're explaining right now every day. It's not fun for kids in 6th through 8th grade or beyond now.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you have an out now. You can sit in class and build characters off people you see in class. Have you done that? Based any of your characters off of your friends or classmates or even teachers?
Yeah, occasionally.
Occasionally, loosely connected, right?
Mhm.
Not direct links to them. So
Yeah. It's like I've never really used it. Sometimes I'll like kind of like derive people's names when I'm like writing, and I'll have like someone's last name is like a variant of someone I know. It's like first name. It's like kind of like kind of creative. Same time, it's kind of scary because I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that. If they read it, they might know.
or if they read it, if they're reading your book, that's a good thing. And if they read it and say, "Oh, that's actually flattering that you wrote me into your book. Hopefully, I wrote you in the right light." But that's good.
Yeah.
Definitely like that. What are some recommendations you have for other teens that are going through bullying and maybe afraid to say anything?
Definitely, it's like, I mean, say something, which is kind of silly. It's like in the end, saying something will always be better than keeping it to yourself. In my case, I kept it to myself for about 2 months, in which it escalated severely and got really, really, really bad before I told something. So don't, and what I did, and like, don't do this, is I waited because I was like, well, I mean, she's just saying things. She's not actually doing anything. And then when I'd actually do something like physical, then it's like, oh, well, then I came forward. But don't do that. Don't let it escalate. If you feel uncomfortable, if someone is hurting you and saying things that are hurting you, speak up about it. Tell someone. Of course, it's like it can be risky. So it's like, we don't tell. If you have people that are friends with that person, maybe don't tell them. Rather speak to an adult that you can trust, like an older sibling or someone who would be able to give you good advice. Because the worry is always like if someone's bullying you and then you tell someone else and then it gets back to them. So instead, I recommend actually finding an adult that you can trust and someone you look up to who can help you. It could be like a parent, an older sibling, or like a relative, or even, like a teacher or a coach or someone. Just like tell someone. Because if you don't tell someone, then it's more of a burden for you. And it also could get worse. And another thing you can do is if it's getting to the point where you're late, you can't like handle it yourself, go to the school administration and talk to them, explain them what's going on, show them evidence if it's online or if you have like some sort of proof. And if they tell you it's just school or like don't do anything about it, then get your adult and like make them do something. Another thing, of course, is like distance yourself from the situation, which in some ways can solve the problem. If there's someone that's hurting you, if you just like kind of stay away from them. The only problem is like sometimes it can be a person in your friend group and you don't want to lose friends. So find other people that in the meantime you can kind of be friends with and figure out if there's like other friends who are dealing with the same problem. And of course, like always talking to someone who can give you like really good advice is always helpful, and like, going to the school about it if it gets to that point, which it might.
In your case, holding it for 2 months or any amount of time usually makes it build, like you said, hurts in here.
Yeah.
It builds up on your chest and builds up inside you until either one, you're going to explode on that person or do something rash to that person or to yourself. You might do something to harm yourself to maybe get away from the situation. That way you don't have to go back to school. And that's how the bully wins in that situation. Either you hurt yourself or you do something to them and get yourself in trouble where they get nothing done to them.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you stood up after. I mean, it took you 2 months of taking it before you said it got physical, which is the dead end of the whole thing there. So
Yeah.
it took those 2 months for you to finally look for help, and hopefully, I know the answer you got was not the right answer at the end there. It's just
Yeah.
but hopefully they,
Yeah.
like you said, hopefully they have turned the page and maybe got better there after you left.
Yeah, and like adding on, sometimes it can be actually helpful to like actually confront the person and say, "Hey, you're hurting me." In a few cases, not really my case, but in some cases it can be the person doesn't actually know that they're hurting you and doesn't know that what they're saying. I mean, however, if you're like look physically bothered or if the comments are like really, really, really severe, like in my case, then it's like, yeah, you don't want to confront them. But if someone's like maybe saying jokes that are like hurting you and they don't maybe know, then you can talk to them about it. And if it gets worse, then carry out with the other steps. Because sometimes like talking to the person can make it better, but also a lot of the time it can make it worse.
Definitely, and I guess if you confront them earlier in the situation, it might make it better. Or
Yeah.
wait too long when they've already built their bully stance on you, uh, and they have their circle of friends that are cheering them on probably by now, or saying, "Hey, watch what she's going to do to her today, or he's going to do to him today."
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll get extremely worse for both parties at that time, and
Yeah.
especially the lead person.
Yeah.
So you're spot on again, ahead of your time with thinking on that. I mean, everything you're doing is ahead of where you should be at your age. So I applaud you for that, and I applaud you for
Thanks.
standing up, even though you took a little time to stand up for yourself. But now you're not just standing up for yourself. You wrote the book through poetry, which is outstanding, uh,
Thanks.
on bullying, so others can maybe learn from what happened to you, and maybe they can stand up and fight for themselves. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
And on the book on poetry, how hard was it to write the book via poetry versus just writing a novel?
So I wrote it between the summer of 7th and 8th grade, and at that point, I had written a few novels, but I was kind of like I had tried to write my story in, like, full text. I had, I think, was it 2 or 3 different versions, like, just first chapters with, like, kinda different styles, and none of them worked. I couldn't get past, like, the first chapter. It was just something that I just couldn't do because one of the biggest problem was, like, I don't wanna name anyone because this person is physically violent and they would threaten people. It's I don't really know how much I'm allowed to say on it 'cause I don't wanna, like, kinda make it mature, but they would threaten harm on them. They would threaten to harm themselves or others, if someone started talking about what they were doing. So I was like, I don't want them to, like, hurt me, and I didn't wanna use any names, and I didn't really wanna use nicknames 'cause that kinda felt weird because I didn't wanna, like, kinda make these new characters. Because if I was like, I could just change the name, but it just didn't feel right at all. So what I ended up doing was I ended up writing it in poetry. One, because it's easier to, like, not include anyone's names if I can do it in this more kind of vague verse format. And also poetry was really what helped me through the time. And poetry is like a very big theme in the book. So it's almost like kind of cool that it's like, well, the book's about poetry in some ways, and it's also told in poetry. And in the end, that was just what worked. That was just the easiest thing. And it's like I don't think I would have been able to write the book if not in poetry.
I mean, that's outstanding. You were able to think that far ahead of not naming the people, not giving them nicknames. Because also giving them nicknames kind of makes them into a character. So it
Yeah.
kind of it builds them up instead of telling them that what they're doing is wrong, and that might make their head get bigger and bully more people. Besides,
Yeah.
also if you named them hurting other people. So I think you did great by going the opposite direction and going through verses of poetry to get the story out there, and that's a great way to do that.
Yeah, because it's like I didn't want and, like, some of my classmates have read that book and they didn't know who it was about. And it's like if I just had, like, everyone's names in it, it would almost be, like, kind of uncomfortable because it's like, well, I don't wanna, like if how do I explain it? Like, then everyone's gonna know. And I mean, in the end, a lot of my classmates knew what happened, also because that person had a habit of hurting other people besides me. But I didn't want to, like, kind of because that would just be so awkward. And it's like, it's with names, it's so weird. Like, it just doesn't work.
Right, and
Yeah.
like you said, your classmates, if they were also getting bullied by the same person, I'm sure some of them were, since I'm sure you weren't the sole target of this this bully. It would have got a lot worse for all of you at that point, and further on, if they hunted you down, especially through social media, they would have hounded you through there as well and hounded all of you. So I think what you did,
Yeah.
the best way to approach that subject. So have you been able to go in front of other like even give speeches in front of kids and say, hey, this is what happened to me. If you see these signs, this is what you should do.
I wanted to. I've never actually got around to it. I've thought about doing school visits actually mainly for like my books and like talking about writing. However, so I went to a school in a different district, but I know the middle schools in my district, a lot of them have like serious problems with bullying. And it's like I've thought about it. Um but, like, I've never just got around to it. I've emailed, principal of one of the middle schools in my district about doing, like, just some speaking, so I could hopefully try to, like, slip into anti-bullying there. Mainly, it's, like, writing would be the easiest thing to speak about because it's, like, kids are not very receptive to those anti-bullying presentations, unfortunately. But almost if I, like, talk about something else, then kind of slowly get into that topic, they might be more, like, keen to listen.
Right. Yeah, I think that would work out great, especially if you start outside your district. That's even better too, because you're helping a
Yeah.
whole other district of kids uh, learn the signs, the symptoms, and how to deal with it a better way, and that would help out the next group of kids coming up, and they'll tell their younger siblings if they have them to look out for these signs, and that way you don't have to keep going back to the same school all the time. But that'll
Yeah.
help.
I don't think my old middle school would have me back. They did not. Because I was the one who ended up I was almost, like, I feel like the poster child for anti-bullying at that school. Like, I had people coming to me and telling me, like, what had happened to them, and I was the one who would always go meet with the principal and say, "Hey, this is not okay. I'm hearing this," and she'd be like, "I don't wanna hear it." I mean, it wasn't that, she just didn't like, I feel like the administration in my old school was not very receptive about it, and it took, like, 2 years of me, like, basically, like, begging them. It's like, "We need a program. This is not just something that's happening just to me," and it just didn't, like but other schools maybe would be more receptive.
They might open their doors and say, "Come on in. We heard what you did there. We've
Yeah.
read your material. We like what you have. and maybe your voice will be the voice of reason as it comes in here, and that'll help out more. And that's a great thing. So, Shanti, as we start to wind down here, what are 3 bits of advice you would give a young author that's thinking about writing their first book, not 19 at once, but one book, writing one book? What are some bits of advice you would give them to get going and get out of their own way?
So as I stated earlier, come up with a goal for like how much you want to write and stick to it every single day. Adjusting that goal is of course helpful. Like sometimes I'll set too high of a goal and I'll be like, I'm too busy, I can't do this, and I'll like lower it just a little. Just personally, 1,000 words is what works for me, but that doesn't work for everyone. So if maybe 500 works for you, maybe even more, maybe like 2,000. Just figure out how much time you have and what works. Another thing, and this is super important, at least to me, is like utilize writing sprints. I'll find that when I have a timer going for like a select amount of time, I almost write more. Often that amount of time is like 10 minutes is really great. And I put on some music. I like making playlists for like what fits like the vibe of the book. So I don't have to change like the song very much. And then I just write. And also what helps is if you like kind of count how much you're writing and then using that information to see, could I do more? Generally for me, I have like 500 words in 10 minutes. So I do 2 writing sprints and I'm like done for the day. And then my third thing is like figure out what kind of style works for you. By style, I mean like, do you outline your books first or do you just like jump into it? For me, I'm kind of in between. I like it's like sometimes just like start writing and just write the whole book with like barely any notes. Other times what I do is I have to like carefully plot each little thing, or I'll have like a list of like scene ideas, but I'll really also let like my imagination kind of come in, and I'll like, sometimes I'll just add stuff to the story. So really figure out what works for you if you're really organized or like not at all. I'm in the middle. I like just write as I go, but then I also add like notes of things I want to happen.
Awesome. That's great advice for the young writer. And we've been through a lot of the bullying steps, but if you want to highlight the best thing to do for someone being bullied, what would that be?
Yeah, so like kind of quickly, find someone you can talk to and talk to them about it. Distance yourself from the situation if possible, and like speak up. If you see something happening, some schools don't like this, but if you see someone being bullied, tell the school. And like, I mean, if like you see someone get beat up, like speak up about it. If someone is calling someone else horrible things, speak up about it. And schools, I mean, I would see that happening, and I would have people come to me and be like, hey, this happened. And with their permission, I would go and like talk to the school. And of course they would be like, well, if it's not them coming forward, but just speaking about it and like getting them aware that there's a problem can help, even if they don't do anything. And like, don't be silent. A lot of the time schools will try to make you be silent. For me, they were like, you're not allowed to tell anyone what happened to you. And I'm like, well, I don't like that. And I just ignored what they said, and I never really got in trouble. I mean, of course, if you're going to get in trouble, like,
That's something good.
Figure out what you're comfortable with, because like I personally don't like getting in trouble. But like don't let someone who like isn't handling the problem well tell you to be quiet.
Definitely great advice, Shanti. And how does someone get in contact with you, or just to have you on their show, or maybe talk to you, or maybe even buy your books?
So you can find most of my links on my website, which is shantihershenson.com. That's ShantiHershenson.com. It should have all of my links. I'm a little behind on podcast interviews right now, so you might just want to look up my name on like the podcasts app or whatever like your favorite platform is. The website's going to go through a remodel soon, so I've kind of been a little like still when it comes to actually updating it. You should be able to find links to all my books as well as like information on my upcoming releases. Another great place to find me would be Instagram. My Instagram is just at Shanti Hershenson. If you really, really want to keep like updated, I'd suggest looking me up on TikTok. It's at Shanti Who Writes. That's where I post information about all of my books and just even writing tips a lot of the time and just things about my story. So that's a really great place. If you send me a message on any of those platforms, I'll hopefully respond. And if you have any questions, I'd first off suggest looking at my TikTok and seeing if I've already answered it. But if it's like something more personal, like just reach out to me. Or if you can't find the answer to the question, like seriously, I'm here to help. And yeah, I have Twitter too, but I don't really use it very much. So.
Well, awesome, Shanti. Thanks for sharing all that with us, and of course, keep doing everything you're doing. You're doing great things, and like I said earlier, your ceiling is high right now. Keep pushing towards it. Keep pushing that ceiling away from you, and do great things.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking us out. and being part of the Misfit Nation. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. It's themisfitnation.com to catch up on all of our episodes and also to get some of that great Misfit Nation gear. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are Fit Nation.